How are we doing, my friends? Welcome back to Real Estate Bites. It is good to be back here live in studio, which is also my dining room. But good to be back here live. And thank you for joining me as always. And let's get into it. So let's look at this week's meme of the week. The lady on the left represents the NAR settlement. The lady on the right are buyers agents. And, I know some of the audience is young and might not know who these two women are. So I'll bring up the speed. The lady on the left and the lady on the right were competitors in ice skating, figure skating. And the lady on the left hired somebody to take I believe it was a crowbar, to the legs of the woman on the right in order to eliminate that competition. So that is what you're looking at right there. If you didn't know who Tanya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan were, but I'm going to tell you, I disagree with this meme. It's not the buyer's agents who are getting a swift blow to the legs and getting hammered and knocked out of the competition. It's the actual buyers, specifically the first-time home buyers. Buyers agents, are they going to be affected? Yeah, sure, especially the crappy ones who don't know what they're doing and don't know how to explain their value to a potential customer, probably because they lack value. And there are a lot. There are a lot of agents out there. There are more than twice as many agents as there are homes for sale right now, to give you an idea. But it's the buyers that this settlement is going to make things much more difficult for, because now they're supposed to be responsible for commissions and such when we already have a housing market that's very unaffordable. I don't know. What I've seen here in the marketplace, though, uh, full steam ahead, business as usual. It's been good. We're still rocking it right, sales team. All right. So, the topic of today is wire fraud. I've got a story for you. This just happened to a client of mine, and it is a great illustration of what wire fraud is, why it's dangerous, how it happens, and what you need to look out for. So, what is wire fraud? Wire fraud essentially is when internet hackers or criminals um, find a way to communicate wiring instructions to a customer or get a hold of their bank account information so that the funds used, the funds wired within a real estate transaction, are then intercepted, stolen, and the buyer and or seller gets ripped off. That is wire fraud. It is fraudsters intercepting the money wire within a real estate transaction. It definitely affects buyers more often than sellers, way more often than sellers. So here's the story. I have a client, and this client is not a rookie by any means. They do multiple transactions every single year. They're an investor client. They have done this time and time again, and they still almost sent away their money to a fraudster. And if it weren't for their bank, who was vigilant, and I'm not going to name any names in this, this is very fresh, very new. Most of the facts that I'm talking about are pretty much set in stone. This almost happened. The bank did save his ass, but I'm not going to name any names. The bank, being vigilant, contacted my client after he attempted to send this wire and said, "Hey, we don't think this is correct. We don't think this is legit." And upon looking into it, they found out that it wasn't. And he almost sent his money to a fraudster, a significant amount of money. Needless to say, it would have been very, very, very painful had he sent that money away. So, how did it happen? How do these fraudsters work? In this circumstance, from what we can tell, and this is where details get murky because they're not all out there. And, a lot of what we're hearing from different parties is a bit of hearsay, maybe a bit of storytelling, but it appears that the fraudster had hacked into the communication systems of the title company and were watching communications go back and forth. And they discovered my client's email address. They went and created a spoof account of my client's email address, and they started to send emails that appeared that they were coming from my client. And what they do, and this is almost always how it works, they will find these email addresses and then they'll create another account, and the name of the email address and or account is as similar as they could possibly make it. It might be off by one or two characters, but everything else looks the same. And that's how they get away with it, because they are preying upon people's inattentiveness to detail, right? So they send this email that looks like it's coming from a specific person that you're doing business with, but it's not the same email address. It's slightly different. And they spoofed my client's email, started communicating back and forth with the escrow officer at this title company, who didn't know that they were being spoofed, that they were being defrauded. And they, through communicating with the escrow officer, they learned enough about the deal and where it was, that then they spoofed the escrow officer's email and sent wiring instructions, fraudulent wiring instructions, to my client, who then, of course, went to the bank, tried to wire off these frauds, and once again, the bank saved the day. Thank you, Mr. Bank. So this is something we got to be vigilant of, guys. The reason why it's Ohio state law that any real estate transaction, $10,000 or above, needs to be sent by wire. And they put that law into effect in order to combat fraud. Now, this is pre-internet age where everything's digital, and people have this incredible ability. I mean, some of these fraudsters, guys, they will recreate websites that look just like, or at least very, very similar to a title company or a loan or whatever. And they will recreate these websites, and so that they can put these links so that they can totally mimic the email of the escrow officer who's sending wiring instructions. They'll put links in there to fake websites, and really do it up to look legit, to try to trick people. And so they use their internet and their tech savvy to create these scenarios by which they can defraud the public. And it's happening more and more and more often. It's getting easier for them to do because things like AI, things like easy web creation services, it's slipping my mind right now, but there's now plug and play, drag and drop website creation services that they can use. All they have to do is scrape a website for images and documentation and information, use those plug and play website development tools, drop all the information in, and within minutes, they've created a fake faux website on a fake domain that they can then scrub once the fraud has been completed. And this is what they do, guys. So how do you prevent this from happening? Number one, you got to pay attention. Like, it blows my mind how little attention people pay to contracts, legal documents, or anything that has to involve what's usually the biggest purchase of somebody's life. Most clients never read anything. They never read through the residential or the purchase agreement, which is the contract that describes the legal responsibilities of every party involved. And they don't bother reading it at all. They don't bother reading addenda that come through. I don't understand why. It's super important. So when you have a company, a title company, a mortgage company, an agent, or a brokerage sending you information by email, you should be paying very close attention to it. If you're in the course of a deal, you should be paying very close attention to what's in that email, to the email addresses. Are they legit? Do they look the same? Is it the same communication? Is the format of the email the same as it has always been in the past? If they've always sent you some sort of a link to a secure third-party server where you can access documentation, and then all of a sudden you get a communication that doesn't have that link, that doesn't have the same process, that should be a dead giveaway, guys. Here's one thing I can tell you: a title company will never, ever, ever send you wiring instructions within the body of an email. Never. They're either going to use a secure third-party link, they're going to send you a PDF attachment, use snail mail, something like that, but never within the body of an email. So be careful out there, guys. My client got very, very lucky. Very, very lucky in this instance. So that's the meat and potatoes for today, guys. Wire fraud is out there. I think maybe it should be a time for the state to take a second look at this law and consider something different, because people are getting nailed by it every day. Okay, that said, let's go ahead and take a look at this last week's statistics. All right. Here we are, episode 47. This morning, there were 337 houses and condos available on the market. 80 sales closed last week, 74 the week before when I didn't do statistics because I was out of town, and I had a pre-recorded segment there with Mr. Jay Sloan, but was able to backtrack and look back at those statistics. So 80 closed sales this past week. The median square foot of those homes that were sold was 1,730 square feet. Median home value was 268,950. Take a look at this past month. I mean, we're seeing a trend here, guys. We're talking about looking at this average, the average of median square foot costs quarterly to see if we are tracking an upswing. At the end of Q1, we're at 143.85. You can see Q2 started just about there, but take a look around, 10 episodes ago, you really start to see the median square foot values climbing, and it looks like we're seeing a trend of price appreciation again. Average days on market this past week was 24. The interest rates seem to be leveled off right around 7% here recently. And the final stat that we look at for fun, $2.1 million was the big sale last week, happened in Columbia Station. Let's go take a look at that house. I'll tell you what, guys, when I saw this come on the market, I had a feeling we might end up looking at this place later on down the road. So this monster of a home, 5-bed, 4.5 bath, 5,500 square feet, includes the finished portion of the basement on a 25-acre lot there in Columbia Station. $382 per square feet is obviously, way above our median square foot value this week. But let's be honest, there's about 24 acres priced into that square foot price, and a 5-car garage, right? So take a look at this beauty. Congratulations to everybody involved in this sale. My guy here clearly was an avid hunter, as you can see from the shed horn chandelier. I do love the woodwork in this house. I love these big beams that make up the staircase. Beautiful. Look at these trophies, huh? I mean, this guy clearly has been all over the world. I believe these two guys here is an East African oryx. Not sure. Some other sort of African gazelle here. You got elk, moose, caribou all over the wall. Let's look at the house though, right? Big, beautiful windows letting in lots of natural sunlight. Great view from the office. I wish they were able to capture this architectural feature here in the ceiling. This ceiling is pretty neat. They have typically what might be a trade ceiling. They have this beautiful shiplap arch inset in the ceiling. I wish we could see more of that. Nevertheless, nice big beautiful shower, huge bath. I love this kitchen. You got the coffered ceilings, and I absolutely love how they blended colors and the mix of stone and wood, the looks of stone and wood. You can see this farmhouse sink has this marble. It appears to be marble, but beautiful stone finish laid into this beautiful wood. Yeah, I love the way that they did this kitchen with the blend of colors and finish surfaces and textures. Very, very sharp. And this, my friends, this house started at $1.995 million list price, ended up selling for $105,000 more than asking. And it was only on the market for 6 days. That is the under contract and contingency portion of the contract. 6 days is all it took to sell this $2.1 million home. This is badass. This is a second floor balcony. You can't see from the pictures, but I would assume that maybe this comes off the master bedroom. But I mean, the stonework, the view, the balcony, absolutely beautiful to come out and enjoy your morning coffee overlooking your pond on that balcony. That's awesome. This property also features a couple massive outbuildings, and I'm not sure what this guy is. I don't know if this is another. It looks like the caretaker's place, I guess, or the whoever's taking care of the grounds probably live there, I'm assuming. But you can see these large outbuildings, stables, big barn, plenty of equipment back here. Yeah, beautiful property. Sold at $2.1 million in Columbia Station. And that's all I got for you. Thank you guys for joining me. As always, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. I love you, people. See you next week.